Hi everyone, my name is Tom, and what I like to do is I like to explain to you the universe. I was first going to do it in 10 minutes, but then I said I think I'd need a little more because it's not an easy thing to explain. But I'm going to do my very, very best so you can understand it. Okay? Here I go. When the universe begins, it doesn't look like the universe what we see when we look into the sky. When you look into the sky, you see the stars with planets with a black background, which we call space, or the cosmos. So you see, we see bright stars, which makes this kind of an occupied space. The space is occupied with stars and planets. And that's basically all you see. Now in the beginning, the universe didn't look like that. Before it was a universe like we see when we look in the sky, it looked very different. What it looked like then is hard for us to imagine because we don't see it when we look outside and we look in the sky, and especially at night when we see space. Because we see this vast, immense space. Where does it end? And we see all those stars. And we can see it end because we know that beyond our Milky Way system, there are other systems like that are exactly built the same. Maybe not, but I will explain that later. Now in the very beginning, if you take all that stuff, all the stars and all the planets, if you take that all together and you press it together, and you keep pressing it together, until you squeeze all the space out of the earth and the water and the air and the sun, and then you squeeze all the space out of the atomic particles, which I'll explain later, because the atom is the building block for the universe, and I squeeze it all together, keep squeezing, until at the end I have a matter that is only matter, and there's no space in it, because all the space has been squeezed out. All the space between the small parts of the atom, all the space in between there, because you know in science the atom is noted as having a lot of empty space with very few neutrons and protons and very few electrons, but I will explain that later. So all the space is gone. And that is the beginning. So in the beginning we have black matter. So there is no star, no planet, nothing. And it is dark. This is black neutron. And in science we have an expression, the neutron. And that is when the proton and the electron are becoming one and the same thing. In this case a neutron. And in a neutron everything is compacted and cemented. And all the space is gone between the particles and the subatomic particles. All the space is gone. That's neutron. And so when you see that space, it is dark space and black neutron. You mean you have the two extremes of the universe, because the universe is infinite because it has no endings and therefore no beginnings. And it is eternal because the neutron holds all beginnings and all endings. So eternity, the neutron, gives us the present and the past and the future, which becomes the now. And space, or infinity, which they're infinite, that gives us the x and the y and the z, or the here. So these I call the axes of space, and these I call the axes of time. Now something happens. You see, I noted the neutron here as black and very small. Now all the space is out. Now I'm not going to explain everything, but there's a few processes that will make this fill or compress or overcompress, and it explodes. So the universe moves between two extremes. A maximal, which is space, and a minimal, which is neutron. And in this case the neutron is time. So the minimal of time and a maximal of space. But remember, space has no endings and no beginnings. Neutron holds all beginnings and all endings. All beginnings, all endings, no beginnings, no endings. Infinite, eternal. Not easy to understand. So this is full, you see, because it's filled, it's full, and it's very small. Now space is very large, very big. Neutron is very small. Now when those two mix, and I cannot explain that to you because it's very, very complex, but when those two mix, it will become the star. So this is the same as here. This one limit here, or the field of influence, will become the one limit but filled here. This is super solid neutron. This becomes super gas. And we have no word for this, but I've called that the zerotron. This is the zerotron. Super solid, super gas. Now this is just the star that you see in the sky. Now you look in the sky, especially at night, you see the stars and the planets. But in the beginning there was only that star, because the beginning, the neutron only knows the ending, the zerotron. And that starts to become whole of creation and its creatures. Now I'm going to go back on the other side so you can follow me. So now we have come from space and neutron to the sun. And the sun I've depicted in green, and I will explain that in a moment. And so I put the white sun, but in the color green. Okay, so here I go. So I have to explain everything that I see around me. And you know, that has taken me a long time, about 18 years. And I look around and I saw earth, water, air and sun. That was very obvious to me because I'm on solid earth, and I know there is a liquid ocean, and I know there is a gaseous air. And so we have the atmosphere, we have the ocean, and we have the land. The solid, the liquid and the gas. And that's the way our earth is built up, also on the outside and also on the inside. Now you see we have a sun. So earth, water, air and sun. Now you see that the sun lies outside of you. It's separated. That's why there's this thick line. All those thick lines mean that it is outside of you. Okay, then you will see that later when I explain more about it. So earth, water, air and sun. Don't look at the colors right now. I'll explain that later. Those are the elements. And those also conversely become the elements of life. Those four elements. Now remember, earth contains all the elements from hydrogen 1 all the way to complex hydrogen 263, which is unihexium, and it's one of the heaviest elements on the earth. So you see, it contains all the periodic table. So earth becomes like the feeding ground for life. And the feeding ground for life is expressed in the hydrogen and the nitrogen and the oxygen and the carbon. And those four combine in a peptide. I'm going to go back to the other side. So remember, we have earth, water, air and sun. And now when they combine with the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, which I call the primordial soup, they become a peptide. And so I'm going to start here and go quickly over that, how we get the earth, water. So this starts to become cooler and starts to split and becomes two. The same as meiosis on earth, when the two eggs split, you know, when we have the original mother egg and the sperm coming together, same here, and they become one cell, the cell starts to split. The same will happen with the sun. It will start to split the same way as the cells do when they are starting up in life. But here it creates an atom. So from the zerotron I create an atom. It's not easy to understand because now I know I need the solid and the liquid and the gas. The solid and the liquid and the gas. So I know that the sun, which is here, and the earth and the water and the air, which is solid earth and liquid water and gaseous air, I know those elements have to have a building block. Okay? So this has to have a building block. And an atom is a building block. So this is what I call an atom, which is made up out of a proton, which is centric, and an electron, which is peripheric. It lies in the periphery. That becomes an atom. And this is then the first building block for the whole universe. It has the solid electron, it has the liquid energy, and the gaseous light. See the half plus and the half minus. That's the liquid energy, that's like a liquid ocean. And we have the solid electron, which is like a solid land. And we have a gaseous light, which is like the gaseous air. So this becomes the model that will build the universe. In the image of the atom is the universe built. As the electron becomes the earth, and the energy becomes the water, and the light becomes the air, and the proton becomes the sun. So this is the building block for the planetary solar system that you see when you look in the sky. Now, to the previous page, I told you that those four elements marry, and through the carbon and the hydrogen and the nitrogen and the oxygen, they create a peptide. Now, a peptide is a peptide protein, that's how they define it. A peptide protein will behave the same way what the atom did, and put many atoms together to build all this. So this is the building block, put the many together, and then you build the whole planetary solar system. Now we have a peptide, and it behaves the same way as the atom. It starts to pile up on one another and create more complicated proteins. And in that complexity, in that final complexity of combining peptides, we create the cell. Now here we have an atomic universe, which is represented by the three darker colors of earth, water and air. And here we have the cellular universe. You see that's a big jump in color of red, orange and yellow. This is alive and this is not alive. This is the alive universe, this is the not alive universe. So now here we have the body, and here we have the soul, and here we have the spirit, which I'll explain to you in a moment. And here at the end, you will have the same as what lies at the end of the atom, which is this. It's the supergas state, which is the proton inside. It's the supergas left over. It comes from the origin and it stays. You have something that comes from the origin, which is the proton. So the proton is like a little star within. A little star within each atom that you are, and the electron is on the outside. And you are really that electron with the body and the soul and the spirit. Here's the cell with the cell body, the cell soul and the cell spirit. So now this becomes a building block for all life. So all life is starting from the one cell. Atom is the building block for the planetary solar system. The peptide is the building block for the cell. And the cell is the building block for all the living organisms on this planet. But you see, I will explain your journey in a moment, because you see there's more about you. I will go back to the previous page. Now, earth, water and air and sun is just made by the electron and the energy and the light and the proton. I told you the proton becomes the sun, the light becomes the air, the energy becomes the water, and the electron becomes the earth. So the atomic universe is built by the atom. This is the atomic universe built by the building block, the atom. And that's why you see there's the same colors like that, because nothing has come alive. Because it's still the non-living universe, the three darker colors. Now you see here some brighter colors with the white ending here. Some brighter colors, I will explain that in a moment. This is that the planet, which is not alive, is earth, water, air and sun, you see is not alive, has become alive because as the function of life gives it a life. The function of life, which is a primary aura, which I will explain in a moment, will give the planet a secondary aura of life. And I will explain later on what that means. Now, this is the non-living universe, as I said earlier. Now, this has to come alive. Now, I told you with the carbon and the hydrogen and the nitrogen and the oxygen. And here you can see again with water, the solid and the liquid and the gas. The solid would be your carbon, and the liquid will be your water, and your gas would be your hydrogen and nitrogen and oxygen. Those three are represented in here again. And that creates life. With the peptide, it creates proteins. The proteins create the cell, and this is the cell. I told you about the body and the soul and the spirit already from the cell. So the electron here has to become like the atom for the atomic universe. The electron builds something for the cell. Well, the electron builds the mesoderm, or the bone and the muscles. The energy builds the endoderm, or the blood. And the light creates the ectoderm, or the nerve. Now in a plant, that would be the photosensor, and in an animal is the nerve too. And in the endoderm, in the plant, that would be the fluids, or the plasm. And in the plant, it would be, instead of the bone and the muscles in the humans and the animals, in the plant it would be the fiber. And so the mesoderm relates to the abdomen, the endoderm relates to the chest, the ectoderm relates to the cranium, and then you have all those put together with an image. Now the image comes from the proton. The proton impresses the image, and the image becomes the most important part of you. And in you right now, that is the skin, and the tool of the skin, your face. Your face expresses really who you are. That is your personality, which comes at the end. The cell void, what holds everything that you are and everything that you have, the whole contour, the external limit of your aura, of the cell, it gives it, that's the personality. And that part comes from the sun. Your sun gives you your personality. And it's related to sound and heat, because sound and heat are related to the proton. Proton has no matter, it's empty. It contains pure sound and pure heat. Has no matter, because matter comes from the electron. Now, the proton gives you your face, and the sun gives you the end of your aura, which I will explain a little bit later, but it lies at the end. Now, the air gives you the cell spirit, the water gives you the cell soul, and the earth gives you the cell body. When I put the mesoderm and the endoderm and the ectoderm and the image, when I put those all together, I create the cell body. So I'm going to show you that right now. So you see, it's not an easy matter. This is the bone and muscle, this is the chest, and this is the cranium. This is the mesoderm, endoderm, and the ectoderm. Now you see the face is stuck on top. So those four together, the solid, the liquid, and the gas, and then what comes from the sun, the supergas, is put together into a cell body. So all those parts create the cell body. Now you know that this is your will with the hands. The soul, that is your heart with the senses, you feel. The spirit with the eyes and the mind. So the spirit sees, the soul feels, and the body does. So the hands do, the senses feel, and the eyes see. And this is where you get your ears from. That outside here is your destiny, is your ending. And that gives you your ears, that gives you your destiny. That is what gives you your ear, your personality. Your personality comes from the sun. Your mind comes from the air. Your heart comes from the water. And your body comes from the earth. And I'll explain that later what that means. Now come back to this cell. So we see this is not alive, this has become alive. So here this is the DNA helix that goes downwards. This is the DNA helix that goes upwards. You know, people, the DNA has two helixes, one up and one down. Okay, so this becomes alive. Now this cell here has to go on a journey. This cell also, like the atom created the planetary solar system, the cell also has to create all the organisms, because they are now come alive. So the cell now goes on a journey. Now first we have, related to the electron and the mesoderm, is the first stage of evolution, which is the mineral. Now in the mineral we create all the elements on the periodic table. I told you already, from those are the hydrogen and the carbon and the nitrogen and the oxygen. They are chosen to create a peptide, or the first life, because as you know, the proteins combine and they can unfold and fold into one another. So they are alive, they are moving, and that slowly over time becomes life. Now the first life that we have is actually not a living being, it's still a living thing. And it's rooted, you can see, mineral. Rooted in the mineral are the plants. And the plants now because of their rootedness, they're not moving yet. So they're a living thing, something in between. Now, in between those two stages, I will explain quickly what those in-between colors are, because I forgot that. In-between colors, this is the lower abdomen, because things have to have a house. So in the lower abdomen, that's the house for the kidney and the liver. At the higher or the intestines and the bladder. The higher abdomen, that's the house for the liver and the kidneys. This is the chest, which is the house of the lungs. And this is the cranium, which is the house of the brains. Now you see the brains here, the ectoderm, and then you have the lungs here, the endoderm, which is relating to the blood. And then you have the kidney and the liver, which is relating to the bone and the muscle. Now the higher abdomen and lower abdomen are two separate places, and the chest and the cranium, those are four houses. Now this is related then to the cell, this relates then to the planet. So you see, this is the cranium, this is the chest, this is the higher abdomen, the lower abdomen, that houses the mesoderm and the endoderm and the ectoderm. So this houses the ectoderm, this houses the endoderm, and then this houses the mesoderm, lower and the higher abdomen. Now in representation of the atomic universe, this is the cellular universe, atomic universe. Now, first thing, this life has a primary aura. You see, the cell body is all you are. And I know this is very complicated, but please bear with me. You see here, that's the one I want. For now, when you look around, this is all you see. This can be expressed in humans, as well as animals, as plants. They all have the same aura, because those are the bodies of Earth. So you see, the body here is all you are right now, and this is called your aura. It's something that is about you that you don't see. Your aura has a color. And so the levels of those colors are the purple, indigo, blue, red, orange, yellow. Your aura will be one of those colors. Okay? But the aura are those parts in you that you haven't realized or idealized or make come true yet. They are not coming true yet, because you are only here now. In the here and now, you're only human. And you see, those are the bodies of Earth. Rooted in the earth, the plants, crawling on the earth, the animals, and walking on the earth, the humans. So you see, this is what the planet has at this moment. Plants, animals, and humans. There's more about you, you see. This is who you are at night. This is the light at the end of your life. And this is who you are at the end of your journey. Because it has to be a returning from where you came from. This is where you come from. The neutron and the zerotron. Now we'll go back to my list. This is life. And life has an aura. You see, this is the cell body, but it still has a soul to come and a spirit and the end of the aura. So that made the planet come alive. And it creates in the planet a secondary aura. This is primary aura. The planet creates a secondary aura. The life on Earth creates for the planet a secondary aura. So the planet will have a body which is made up of earth, water, air. It will have a soul made up of the combined soul of all the life on it, made up of a spirit, made up of the combined spirit of all the life that is on it, and it has a house of voids, which is the combined void, or the combined being that you are, is related to the sun. As the spirit is related, the house of spirit is related to air, the house of soul is related to water, and the house of the plants and the animals and the humans, that is related to earth. The body of earth, made up of earth, water, air, earth containing the earth animals, water containing the fish, and the air containing the birds. So this has become, the planet has now, as a function of life, become alive itself. That's the best way I can explain it. Now this goes on a journey. The cell goes on a journey through the minerals, the plants, animals, humans, But there's more about you. Those three are very difficult to understand because they haven't arrived yet. And so I'm talking to you about something that is you cannot see, and some people know a little bit about it, some people don't. But some people say you have a soul, but there's lots of confusion. Some say spirit is soul, soul is spirit. Soul is not spirit. For your heart is not mind. For your will is not heart, is not mind. For the void is your personality. This gives you your personality. The proton gives you your face. My face comes from my proton. At the end of my aura, that comes from my void. That comes from the sun. My spirit comes from the air. My soul comes from the water. My human and my animal and my plant, that comes from the earth. Those are the bodies of earth. That's the journey of the cell. Now, and here are just combined the 6 stages of evolution, which is the space and the neutron combine and become the zerotron. So the neutron star becomes the zerotron star, and that started about 16.8 billion years ago, give and take a few years, in the center of this local Milky Way system, centrally. It exploded, and those are very complex things, but I can explain it, but I'm not going to because it's too complex. It explodes. All you need to know that the universe moves between 2 extremes, a minimal neutron and a maximal space. And you know space has no endings and no beginnings, and a neutron holds all beginnings and all endings. That goes on a journey. It becomes the atom with the proton that's a little left over from the origin, you can see that, and the electron, which is you, which is your abdomen and your chest and your cranium, or your electron, light and the energy. It becomes the planetary solar system. Those give life to the peptide, creating proteins, becoming the cell, and then the third building block, second building block, peptide. Third building block is the cell. That goes on a journey, and this is what you know. Plant, animals, and humans. Now there's more about you. As I said, this is who you are at night. So how does that work? When you sleep, you're the soul. You're not the flesh, because the flesh, the body, is kind of horizontal and it looks like it's dead. Death and sleep are synonymous. They are one and the same thing. So in the day, you're the body, the soul is the captain, and the body is the ship. So the soul steers the body. So at night, there's a cable connected to the soul and the body, and the cable lies in between the nipples. So this cable is connected to the soul because the soul and the body, that's the journey for now. So when the body is asleep, the soul wanders at night. So what you are at night is the soul that you are. And you have a color. Your soul has a color. And the color means, one of those colors means that's where the soul is at for its learning. Now this is harder to understand for most people because the spirit is for now not involved. And the spirit will give light at the end of the life because at the end of the life the cable breaks. So the soul is wandering every night in the sleep state, in the dream state, that is you as a soul. So when you die, the cable breaks, and that will be you as a soul, but you have no more body. So only your body died, not you, you're the soul. Okay? Now, I will go back to the next page, because that is my page where I can explain that better to you. Now when you look at the bottom, I made a very small, but just see me, I have to probably explain it better because you might not be able to see it. This is plant, animal or human. That's the body of it. The body of plant, the body of human, and the body of the animal. That goes back to earth because as I said earlier, that's a body of earth. Now this is who you are at night. So when the cable breaks and the body returns back to earth, the soul is where it goes every single night. It has been every single night of its life because it's the soul that lives the whole life. As the body sleeps every single night, the soul doesn't sleep. The old soul only goes to sleep at the end of the whole life. So you basically don't sleep. You're always awake. It's your body that sleeps. It's your body that dies. So when the soul cable breaks and the soul is freed from the body, the light appears at the end of your life. And the light will appear through a tunnel. you will see a tunnel. And you have to walk through that tunnel, because at the end of that tunnel you will see the light. At the end of that tunnel you will see the light. You go and walk across. For if you don't walk across, you will stay behind. And I will explain to that with the other chart a little bit later. But I didn't want to start that because and I'll explain that in a moment. So you see, when the soul does not go into the light, it stays behind. And it stays behind, you can already hear that that is not a lot of fun. But when you do go into the light, remember the color, the aura of the soul has a color. Now let's say the color is red. So now the soul goes in the light, and the light has to bring it somewhere, because where does the soul go? Now when the soul is orange in aura or yellow in aura, it does not go to the same place. The yellow ones will go to the yellow place, the orange one will go to the orange place. And you see here, very small, but I will explain it, here's earth, water and air. And that's the body and the soul and the spirit. Now when you die, I showed on the bottom, the body returns to earth. The soul now has to return to its soul, to the soul of the planet. I told you the soul of the planet is the secondary aura. It's due to the function of life. Because of life on the planet, Earth has gotten a secondary aura. The total soul is the total soul of all living. This total spirit is the total spirit of all living. So you see, it's divided in 6, like the lobes of the lung. Because the story of the blood and the story of the heart tells the story of the soul. So when the soul is dead, it will do like the blood, the tired blood. It will go through the tunnel until it reaches the gathering place of the blood, or the gathering place of the souls, which is the light. Now when the soul goes into the light, it traverses air, and it's being brought to the soul, the mansion, or the whole of its color. So when it's purple, it's being brought to the purple place. When it's yellow, it's being brought in the yellow place. Now when it enters there will be life reviews. Everything will be questioned, everything will be settled. So you will go and have a life review, and with that you see that every soul you encounter in your yellow place or your yellow hole will have no identity. It will have no face. All the souls will look alike. So there is no face, because the true function of the soul as it is now is to get a face. You see, I've drawn a face, but when you go into your mansion, when you have a color and you go into the hall of your color after your body dies, you will see that the soul, your soul, if it has one of those colors, has no face, because you will only get a face when you become white as a soul. So when the soul has no face, it will continue on its journey until it gets a face. And the face has to be a face from all the faces you have lived, as a plant, as an animal, as a human. Yes, you have lived before as a plant and an animal and a human, and you will continue to live until you reach your very end. For you had a beginning and you will have an ending. So this is who you are. You start at the beginning and you went through the whole journey, and there's more about you, because that is your aura. This is in your aura, still to become. That is in your aura, further, still to become. That lies at the end of your aura, still to become. So you see, here's your journey, from beginning all the way to ending. So this is you. This is you really as you are. But there is no face, you see, because the journey of the face has finished. The soul is the intermediary. It gets a face, and then it starts losing its face, because that spirit, it only needs eyes and ears. I'll explain that a little bit later. And here at the end, you can only hear. You can only hear. There's nothing for you to see or feel or do anymore. You only hear. And you hear your homecoming. You're returning. You're coming home. In here you come home to the sun. And this is the journey of Icarus. Icarus is a Greek goddess. And so Icarus basically became united with the sun. Now the aura of the planet, as we speak, is red. The whole aura of this planet, as I told you, you have a color in your aura. The planet, because it's the combined soul and the combined spirit, also has a color. Now most people cannot see that. But the color of the aura of the planet is at this moment red. And you see red is only here, it's still not done. So the planet has lots to be done. The planet, there's lots to be done to become white. So the essence is there that your aura is red, there's where the planet is at, and it has to go up in color. And we have to do that together. And I will talk about that a bit later. So what I said was, we have a body returning to earth, and a soul returning to water, and a spirit returning to air. And so that has to be represented in our planet, because the earth, water and air is the body of the planet. Then we have the soul of the planet due to the function of life, and we have the spirit of the planet due to the function of life, and we will have the void that contains the totality of the planet due to the function of the life on it. Now that goes on a journey. Now this is part of your, as I showed you earlier, the soul and the spirit and the void are still to come, because there's where you are. So this lies still in your aura, because that still lies to come. You haven't realized that yet, because you just have realized earth. When you're done being human, when you know everything there is to know about being human, you will become white. And at the end of that, you will have obtained a personality in your soul. And that becomes then a new journey for you in a new state. This becomes then your new state. This becomes then the new you. Okay? Now you're human. Before that you were animal. Before that you were plant. Before that you were mineral. And that is your journey. So this is who you are at the end. And I will show that here again. So this is the beginning, the neutron. This is the ending, the star. You are a star being, because you see the proton is like a little star left over that is within you. And remember, the proton is not part of you. It's an electron, energy and light, and this is the face of the atom. This is the face, so it lies outside. So you see, this is giving you a part of the beginning. That's your origin, the proton. That's why I said earlier that the proton determines the whole evolution. The proton is the evolution. It determines the evolution. Now you are that electron. And your electron has energy and light. And that creates the planetary solar system. Earth, water, air in the image, and the sun. Proton, sun, electron, light, energy, earth, water and air. They combine, create the peptide creates the cell creates the organisms. The living universe, the non-living universe. This is the transition between the non-living universe and the living universe. You see, the peptide is the transition. Now here you see the whole journey from rootedness, rooted plant, crawling on the earth, walking on the earth, and that's what we know as of now on earth. This is you at night. This is the light at the end of your life for now, but that changes, because if you realize and you become white light, then the soul comes. You will not have to cross anymore, like I showed you in this last picture. When you're not white, you will have to cross. You see, this is the light at the end of your life when the cable breaks. So the soul has to do a cross over, and it has to go to the light. If it doesn't do that, it stays behind. It has to go to the light. Okay? And so this is you at night. This is the light at the end of your life that will give the soul a right. Now when you enlighten and you become white, then the light will come and harvest the soul. And your journey will then begin with an identity. You see, you will have gotten in a face, an identity out of all those identities of earth. You see? You've gotten one face and poof, you've gotten a face, and now you're a mature soul to begin the journey again, right from the beginning. Purple, indigo, blue, red, orange, yellow. And the soul begins its journey. And the soul too will die at the end of the journey. And it will become spirit, and the spirit too will die at the end of the journey. But that is complex. For now you need to know that this is not who you are. For now this is who you are. You are the soul, and this is your reality at night. In your dream reality is who you really are. In the day, it's the vehicle, this is the body that the soul uses to learn and grow on earth. Now, why am I doing all this? We have started an organization called the Ego de Moor Center for Positive Change. And so we have a center where we want to cultivate the soul that you are. And what we stand for, we have a slogan, and our slogan is, be it. Be the best person you can be. Live your best life scenario. Be it. Be the best person you can be. Thank you.